Hello lovely people, welcome back to my channel. It's Canisha. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below and you can join me on my journey. So for today's video, I'm going to do a summer book haul because in the last few months I have purchased or I have been gifted for my birthday a number of books, and I figured I would do like a haul on what I'm basically going to be reading for the next few months because your girl is on a book ban and I'm trying so hard not to purchase more books before I've read the books that are already on my shelf. So it will be a few months until I buy some new ones. So I have about 8, might be less, books that I have. So the first book that I'm going to be talking about is by Vuong and it is On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. So this is a book that I have seen recommended on BookTok and on YouTube, and it tells the story of Little Dog, and it's a letter to his mother talking about their experiences moving from Vietnam to America, growing up in America, and the experiences that he has had, and he's seen her experience as well. So it's really honest and candid, and so far I'm enjoying it because I am about 50 pages in. The only thing for me with this book is the writing style is like kind of hard to read in some areas, just because there's a lot of jumping from like a memory to the present to a memory, but also with the memories that are also spread out. Like, I'm finding it an interesting thing to follow and keep track of the story, but so far I'm loving it. I've even started doing like a colour system where I just basically bookmark lines or phrases that really resonated or really stuck in my mind, and I'd probably want to reread them if I was to like pick up this book again. So the second book I'm going to be talking about is The Vanishing Half by Bennett. So I purchased this one and Ariadne at the same time from Waterstones, and this is another one that's always talked about on BookTok and always mentioned in YouTube hauls. So it tells the story of Stella and Desiree, who are identical twins growing up together in a small southern black community until the age of 16 when they went away. So years later, everything about their lives is different, their families, communities and racial identities. One sister lives with her black daughter in the same southern town she once tried to escape. The other sister secretly passes as white and her husband knows nothing of her past. Still, separated by many miles and just as many lies, the fate of the twins remains intertwined. What will happen in the next generation when their daughters' storylines intersect? So I guess it's a really good book about identity, exploring also race with what happens when you are visibly black or visibly white, the different experiences that you have, and I'm looking forward to reading this book. So I haven't read it yet, but it'll probably be the book I read after On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. The next book is The Woman in the Window. So I also got this from Facebook from another girl, so it's pre-owned, pre-loved. And this is a book that's also a movie adaptation. So I watched the movie first and I still need to read this book, but it tells the story of a woman called Anna Fox who, I can't remember what the name of the thing she has is, but essentially she doesn't leave the house like ever. No matter what it is, like she just never leaves the house. But from her window, she witnesses something mysterious happen to her neighbor. And so she's one of the only people to see this happen, and it's a kind of like a thriller mystery trying to uncover what actually took place. Will people believe her side of the story in terms of her recollection of events, and just what can she do to save her neighbour turned friend. So it's a great mystery, and normally I don't read thriller or mystery books. I tend to stick to like fantasy, romance, non-fiction, those kind of books, but rarely ever do I have like a thriller or a mystery book, so I'm quite keen to see what this is like. My other book that I got, which was also from Facebook, it was Elizabeth Day, How to Fail. So one of the only downsides to purchasing via Facebook is that sometimes you don't get everything. So for example, this book came as is, so I don't have like the cover, sleeve, like I would have done if I purchased this myself, but that's okay because it's what is inside the book that matters. And so Elizabeth Day wrote How to Fail, and it's essentially like, I think it's like a memoir. Basically, it's like a non-fiction book on all of her experiences on failure, in fact teaching you why it's okay to fail. And I think it's a really important book because oftentimes in society or the way that you're raised up, failing is not an option. Like, failing is like the very last thing that you want to do. But if you don't have the tools, or if you don't have the knowledge that failure actually brings you lessons, so you do better the next time or you exceed the next time, you can really fear it a lot. And so sometimes this fear of failure in fact stops you from ever doing anything or making any action to what it is that you want. So I'm keen to read this book just so I can really understand how to fail and how to do it in a way that I take learnings from it, I can bounce back quicker, and also just accept that it is part and parcel with life, and it's not every single day successes or winning or just being on top of the world. Actually, life just has its highs and its lows. So anyway, that's Elizabeth Day, How to Fail. The next book is Working Hard, Hardly Working, How to Achieve More, Stress Less and Feel Fulfilled. Grace Beverly is a entrepreneur. She owns 3 successful businesses. She used to be like an influencer, and I've been following her journey since her days at Oxford University. As someone who admires her drive, what she's been able to achieve in the last 5 years, her book made sense into trying to understand her thinkings behind, you know, her work ethic, how she's able to do so much in such a short time. I figured, you know what, let me take some notes, see what works for me, apply it to my own life. The other book that I bought from Waterstones with the Vanishing half was Ariadne, and let us take a moment for this cover. Okay, we've had a moment. Look, just honestly, just look how beautiful this front cover is. This is a retelling of the Greek mythology story of Ariadne, who was the princess of Crete, and she was famous for helping Theseus kill the Minotaur. And it tells her story about what happened that evening, what led to it, and then the consequences of those actions afterwards. What I really love about this book is that it tells a female perspective about a woman living in this time, you know, part of the Greek mythology. And it's so common that so many of the Greek stories and the heroes' wins and what they did, it's always talks about the men, and it never mentions the women who were involved or the women who played a crucial role in them. So I love that this focus is centered on Ariadne, and whilst telling her story also explores other women throughout Greek mythology who have been unfortunate in how their stories have been told, like, you know, Medusa for example, or just have never been mentioned in history. So it celebrates women in this book, but also at the same time it tells that story. But yeah, so this is Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. So the next book that I'm going to be talking about is The Beekeeper of Aleppo by Christy Lefteri. So The Beekeeper of Aleppo tells the story of Nuri, who is a beekeeper, and his wife Afra, who is an artist. They live happily in the beautiful city of Aleppo in Syria until the unthinkable happens and they're forced to leave. But what Afra has seen is so terrible, she has gone blind, and they must embark on a perilous journey through Turkey and Greece towards an uncertain future in Britain. As Nuri and Afra travel through a broken world, they must confront not only the pain of their own unspeakable loss, but the dangers that would overwhelm the bravest of souls. Above all, and perhaps this is the hardest thing they face, they must journey to find each other again. So I'm really keen to read this because often people mention this in the same line as talking about 1,000 Splendid Suns. So I figured I should read this. Similarly to The Kite Runner, that's another classic book that I also want to check out. So yeah, I got this through Facebook, so it is a bit like worn and pre-loved, but I'm still really excited to read it. Now the last book, if not the most iconic book of them all, is Americanah by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. And this is a story of 2 young people living in Nigeria. So Efemelu and Obinze are young and in love when they depart military-ruled Nigeria. In America, Efemelu has to grapple with what it means to be black despite her academic success. Obinze plunges into a dangerous, undocumented life in London. 15 years later, when they're reunited in a newly democratic Nigeria and reignite their passion for each other and their homeland, they face the hardest decision of their lives. So this is another book that I picked up from Facebook, and it's also pre-loved, but I'm really excited to read this because my friend Mayfield read this a while back and she highly recommended it, so I figured I should also check it out. And I don't think I have read Chimamanda's other books, so this will be my first one, and hopefully over time I pick up her other books. But yeah, that's all the books that I purchased over the last 2.5 months. It's a variety of books from non-fiction to fiction, mystery, thriller, romance. It covers it all, so I'm really excited to get my teeth into these books. I've already read one of them and I'm partway through another, so I think this pile will keep me steady for a while. But what are you reading? Please comment below to let me know what you're reading or what's on your bookshelf. But this is the hefty pile on my bookshelf. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button below and join me in my future videos.